You won't believe this, but there's a systematic approach to create fiery, cool, hip-sounding jazz lines. We're really going to get into the details here, I assure you. But there's some things that we have to go over first, especially if this is somewhat new to you. If you know all your chord tones already, feel free to skip to the next part. You have to know your chords. More specifically, the notes that make up every chord. Start with using the root 3-5-7 and root 3-5-6 as your foundation to build your lines from. I'm not referring to the classic arpeggio built in thirds. You can of course use them, but what I want to talk to you about is the chord tones in a more strategic way. But before we get into the how, which we definitely will, let's take a look at the chords to the first 8 measures of all the things you are. The song I was soloing on at the beginning. The chords listed to the left, then we're gonna list the root 3-5 and the 7th, and sometimes it'll be the 6th. Let's color code those so you instantly see the difference. Here are the chord tones for F minor 7 and B minor 7, then E flat 7. With A flat major 7, we're going to convert that to A flat 6. D flat major 7, the same thing. What's that? Why are we using the 6th instead? Why are we converting them? I'm going to show you the language built from the bebop approach. I'll explain more about the 6th in a bit. Just hold on. Then the D minor 7 flat 5, G7, and lastly C major 7. Notice that again we use the 6th instead of the 7th. Here's why you sometimes use the 6th instead of the 7th. When a chord contains a major 7th, including a minor chord, pretend you're playing over a 6th chord instead. This is because the language of bebop was born out of the swing era that came before it. People weren't playing a lot of major 7 chords at that time. Now, I'm not saying you can't use the major 7th. If you're going to go for a more modern sound, it's totally up for grabs. But if you want to play more authentic bebop, start first with playing the 6th. Without getting too deep into it, it's harder to use the major 7 authentically when playing bebop, mostly because the language was developed by playing over 6 chords first. Besides, you may already know that you can replace a 6 chord with a major 7 chord already, and vice versa. So if you're thinking C6, but someone is comping a C major 7 chord behind you, it's totally fine. Remember, you're not changing the harmony. You're just thinking major 6 or minor 6 when improvising. Plus, if a major 7 chord is being played and you target the major 7th, more on that targeting in a bit, there's no space, no room to put interesting notes between the 7th and the root, because they're separated only by a half step. Now, let's get into the nitty-gritty, shall we? I'm going to play a chord tone melody by using only chord tones from the chord I'm on at the moment, and only on beats 1 and 3, essentially half notes. Beats 1 and 3 are considered the strong beats in the measure. So we're going to put our chord tones, the strong sounding notes, on the strong beats. I'll stick to just the first 8 measures again. Until you get to know your chord tones really well, you probably are going to have to slow everything down and it goes without saying that you want to do this on the whole song. When I started to do this, I used to play through the whole song maybe 10 or 20 times. In other words, to get very good at this, do it a lot. Now, we're not done yet. There's so much more to show you. There are so many benefits from doing this. Even if that's all you did, your improvising will improve because you learn the song's chord changes really well, you learn the notes of each chord super well, and you're learning the notes on your fretboard for you guitarists out there. And probably even more things that I can't even think of right now. Now, you're asking me, what next? Well, remember I said that I was going to come back to the topic of targeting? Well, these chord tones that we've been concentrating on are our target notes. They are our anchor notes that keep our improvised line grounded in the chord of the moment. Once you get good at this, you'll discover that you can practically play anything in between these well-placed chord tones, and it will still sound like you're making the changes. By the time we get to the end, I hope you walk away with some great ideas to implement on any song. And I've got something cool for you, so be sure to stick around to the end. We're going to play into our chord tones, our target notes. Let's approach each note from a half step below. This time, I want you to play along with me. So grab your axe and let's go. It'll be much slower this time. Remember, you can replay any of the examples as many times as you want until you get it. Let me change guitars. See how this is going to sharpen your skills? Let me know in the comments what you think so far. We approached each note from an eighth note away. Now let's do 2/8 notes away. We'll play the same approach note from below, but we'll precede that note with a whole step above our target note each time. What we are now creating is an enclosure. We're surrounding each note or circling each note before we land on each chord tone. That's a 2-note enclosure. Enclosures are really important to capture authentic bebop sounds. You can do 3/8 notes because essentially there are 3/8 notes between beats 1 and 3. You can also do this 3-note enclosure. You can also do this. If we go back to just 2 notes, we can start with 1 note from above to 1 below. And of course, you can approach from 1 note above instead of below, like this. All of these are great things to practice. They all train your ears to hear the target notes as well as train your hands to play them. The idea is to work all the stuff into your playing so it comes out natural sounding. That's what you want. You want to have a natural conversation on your instrument. Just play, not think about what to play. At least don't think about it too hard. I would practice 8th note triplets too, and 16th notes as well. Remember I said you can play just about anything between our anchor notes? As long as the anchor notes are there, your line will sound interesting yet strong. Listen to how a simple string of chromatic approach notes still sounds totally fine. By the way, approach notes, either below or above, is like an arrow making a beeline to the chord tone. Enclosures circle the note before landing on it. I like to think of enclosures as creating sound gravity. It creates a pull on the target note for the ear. There's more to life than just enclosures. If you intersperse your enclosures and approach notes with arpeggios, scalar ideas, or whatever your imagination can conjure, you are playing the concepts of jazz bebop improvisation, but coming up with your own unique twist, your own unique sound. I've developed a workbook that will get you working out the ideas that we covered. Plus, I dive into even more concepts that we didn't get a chance to hear. This way, you can elevate your solos, develop your own sound, and improvise with much more confidence by applying concepts that really work. The link to get the workbook is below. Please like this video if you found the information useful. Subscribe if you want more videos on improvising and improving your jazz playing all around. Let me know in the comments if you found it helpful. I always respond to every comment. Maybe I'll take another chorus of all the things you are.